All right, wonderful people, lovers of freedom. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each and every one of you. Welcome back to Expose News TV, your one and only YouTube platform. We're giving up back-to-back updates on how things they be, on how things they shell for Biafra land and beyond. If you're joining us for the first time, remember to subscribe and turn on your notifications too. Also, remember to like and share this broadcast too. All right, the Nigerian military currently arresting Southeast residents detains outrageous number of Igbos in Niger State's Wawa barracks. This is coming from Barrister Ejiofor. Yes, my people, if this particular talk was coming from the PM Simon Ekpa Njoko, people would come out and say that is always the normal talk of the PM, and we know even at this point that even the Barrister Ejiofor at this point is not in good terms, or PNB is not even happy with everything that is going on with that concerns Barrister Ejiofor, and he's coming out to say this. What does this say about this particular news that is coming out at the moment? Yes, so that you would not claim or say that it's just normal talk just to push the agenda of the Biafra movement. Ejiofor said that the enforced disappearance in the southeast region of Nigeria has become a harrowing crisis that politicians in the region, especially those who are currently campaigning for elections in 2027, have continued to willfully ignore. Barrister Ejiofor, human rights activist, has raised the alarm over the rising incidents of abductions and enforced disappearances of the Southeast residents, allegedly by the Nigerian security forces, the ZOO security forces. Ejiofor said that enforced disappearance in Southeast region of Nigeria has become a harrowing crisis that politicians in the region, especially those who are currently campaigning for elections in 2027, have continued to willfully ignore. He lamented that hundreds of Southeast elderly parents, young men and women are allegedly regularly taken by Nigerian security forces, disappearing without a trace, noting that the relatives of the victims could no longer determine the status or whereabouts or whether they were still alive. Ejiofor said that Ejiofor commented in a recent publication that he has raised this alarm over the shocking number of our people being abducted daily by state actors under the guise of combating rising insecurity in the southeast, when actually the people that should be looked into concerning this rising insecurity is the north, as a whole lot of things keep happening out their area. But then what they are more concerned about is the Biafra movement, and that is why they send their people instead of to protect themselves from whatever it is they are facing there, which we all know that it's actually government people that are sponsoring those people that are terrorizing them. Of course, what they have decided to do is to send these same people to us here to come and kill and abduct people that would help the cause of the movement. Hundreds of our elderly parents, brothers, and sisters are regularly taken by Nigerian security forces, disappearing without a trace. Our concern deepens with the increasing number of distress calls we receive daily from the families of some of these victims of enforced disappearance. It is especially troubling that the relatives of these victims can no longer determine their status, whereabouts, or even whether they are still alive. The reason for their arrest remains unknown because there is no reason, no just cause for arresting these people, further compounding the agony for their families. Unfortunately, this alarming trend has not been met with the deserving public outcry and condemnation, particularly from those who claim to represent us in high political offices. Instead, a fraction of these officials, seemingly absorbed by the privileges of their position, are preoccupied with the preparation for the upcoming election. Now that the Amnesty International has stepped into to corroborate our concerns about these secret abductions and forced disappearances, we call on our political leaders across all levels to denounce the state actors responsible for this crime against humanity and demand an end to these grave infractions. Of course, these people are not concerned because they don't want to get themselves involved or get killed or warned by the people that are actually involved in the abductions. They are scared of them. The leaders are scared of them. They sound what they only are interested in is the money and the positions they would get from when anything works out well for them. He says here that we have also suggested in our various discussions that security agents have the capacity to identify their targets and apprehend the actual threats, yet they continue to target ostensibly innocent and harmless citizens, which is the truth. According to him, these innocent individuals are then transported to unknown locations where they may be either killed or indefinitely detained without any trace. Wawa military barracks in Niger State, for instance, is currently holding an outrageous high number of innocent Igbos who have been detained indefinitely with no hope of freedom in sight. I am urging the governors of the Southeast states to take immediate action and use the machinery of the government to address this high rising trend. My people, this is what it is. Listen to the next audio that comes by. It is going to be very important that you listen as you follow up with everything that concerns the movement. Thank you.
Battle with the zoo. So by the time the freedom is declared, the nation is declared, that is when the main battle will commence. That's why I told you it's going to be more brutal, because that time doom. And this doom gonna sound will be sounding on top of their head, on top of their own head, on top of their own head. They don't know what is going to hit them. So how do we conquer it? We will conquer it because listen, like the proverb I gave you. I said, Esibe, ayano. We're in our home. Biafra land is our home. We know the terrain. We know everywhere. They came. They are the ones who came here. They don't know here more than us. And again, the spirit of our land is with us because we are fighting to save the land. Are you paying attention? So, now what next? By the time we keep on neutralizing the terrorists, sending them to Oboda Fudeme, they will run also kafayeju weapon Oboda. Also kafayeju weapon. So if you say, if you see the barracks, don't think that once we declare Biafra, we will now tell them, oh yeah, leave Biafra land. They will just leave. They cannot chicken out. They will still be doing a mokanda baka. Once you send them to judgment, other ones will come. We will continue. We are not getting tired. We can never be tired. Now, the PM has something else to say. Let's listen to him.
But let me tell you, if the Vietnamese fought America for years and succeeded in making America to flee, we are ready to fight Nigeria even more than what Vietnamese did. And we dictate how this particular war will be fought.
Are you paying attention? That's why I told you another very important part is that the decision, the determination, the decision and the determination, the decision to fight and the determination to stay in the fight, never to quit. And most importantly is the direction and the dimension of the war, which will be determined by us. So if the Vietnamese, if the Afghanistans, if the Sudanese, the South Sudanese fought for many years and never surrendered until their nation is guaranteed, their freedom is guaranteed. Until their freedom is guaranteed, how then do you think Biafrans will stop at any time soon? Or not even, how then do you think that Biafran can stop until the zoo government withdraws their military from Biafra land? The only thing we need is the withdrawal of the zoo military from our land. That is the freedom of Biafra. I have always said it, not Tinubu, not Hopus Odimma, not Okezi Ikpeazu, not Soludo. The withdrawal of the zoo Janjaweed terrorist military in Biafra land will be the free Biafra. That is the free Biafra we are talking about. Nothing else. Nothing else. The moment they will announce it in Abuja and call off all the soldiers to return back to Abuja, that day will be the day of free Biafra. And you don't just get that with declaration. The declaration will legitimize your nation. And then the freedom that you fight for will begin from the day the zoo will withdraw their military from Biafra land. That is what we are doing.
We are never going into conventional warfare with Nigeria. But the delegitimization will take a different tone. And what I'm trying to tell you people today is that you must be prepared for a very long years of battle for the legitimacy of Biafra government.
Did you get that? A long years of battle for the legitimacy of Biafra government within Biafra territory. And that is the mass exodus we are talking about. When you hear mass exodus, even the Prime Minister himself that made that declaration, Biafra mass exodus. I'm not sure if he fully understand that word. I believe that God just put it in his mouth and he pronounced it, but I'm not sure if he fully notice or understand what that word stands for. It's just like when he mentioned autopilot. He never knew what that autopilot stands for. God put it in his mouth. He said it, and that word became another thing entirely. This Biafra mass exodus, we are talking about when you come to the city of Madrid. All Biafrans in Madrid will pack their luggages heading to Biafra land. I'm telling you, the next day, the people of Madrid will come out to the street and they will feel a void. They are going to feel something. They will feel that something has left them. They will feel the scanty of the area. They will feel how scanty the area will be. You come to the streets of London. You are no longer seeing Biafrans. The Londoners will feel something. They will know that something has left them. When you come to the city of Bayern, Biafrans have gone. It will be like something just happened and everybody run away. I say everybody run away. Remember, you still have the citizens. You still have other foreigners there. But people will feel that something has happened in this city. When you go to Johannesburg and Biafrans have left, the citizens will know that something has happened here. Something great that has never been witnessed before has happened here. And people who do not know that there's a place where freedom has been granted, who are not following the news, will be wondering what has happened to them. Many will think that rapture has taken place. I'm telling you, most of the cities where Biafrans are a million will feel that rapture has happened. What I'm telling you now, I'm saying it for the first time in history. Go and mark it somewhere that this very Biafra mass exodus declared by the Prime Minister, I'm not certain that he looked deep or deeper before he mentioned that word. Because what will happen with that mass exodus, what is going to happen to the various cities of the world will be like rapture taking place. You don't know the number of Biafrans. You don't really know the number of Biafran people around the globe. When you go to Guangzhou, by the time you go to Guangzhou in China, after Biafra mass exodus, the following day, the Chinese government will ask, is it really like this before? The Chinese government, the people of China, will ask themselves, was it really like this?
It is not something that happened in one day. It is not something that happened immediately after our declaration on 2nd of December. But 2nd of December will mark the beginning of a very long battle, which we are going to show our determination with our actions and inactions. So my fellow Biafrans, all I'm here to tell you this afternoon is for you to understand that after the declaration on December 2nd, 2024, the battle begin.
Remain adamant that he probably is not going to allow this. He said the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. That clearly indicates that he's not going to relent in his push to silence any voice of dissenting as far as that position is concerned. So which way forward to heal the divide between or amongst the Nigerians, especially on Biafra crisis?
I think the best thing is to ask them what they want. I remember one time Professor Wole Soyinka said, if we can continue fighting Biafrans for such a long time, it's not long before we go to war, which is actually happening right now. Why don't we ask them what they want? And for sure they have voiced and they have said it, that they want referendum. Why? Because for a long time, they do not have a mutual understanding with the rest of the Nigeria nation. They are not understood. They are marginalized for such a long time. They are not wanted by the rest of the Nigerian government. So the best thing is to take them to a referendum so that we know exactly what they want and separate them if that is exactly what they want. Why? Because if we continue like this, these are crises not only in Nigeria, but it will have a ripple effect to the bordering countries. And with time, it will have a big effect to the African countries. As I'm talking, Africa has the largest immigrants to the world. It has the largest refugees to the rest of the continents. Why is that so? It's because of such crises that we can see in Biafra and Amazonia and other countries like Sudan. So I think before we even move forward, it's very important that we give or they're given referendum. From there, they can be able to sort out the rest of the challenges. And it's quite unfortunate because we have diplomatic missions in Nigeria. Why can't they take that issue with them and sort it out? Why are they quiet? Why is the world quiet when Biafrans are suffering? Why is the world quiet when we know very well that such issues can affect the whole of the African continent? It's quite sad, and that's why as Punchline Africa TV will continue talking to the world and saying that these people need a referendum. They're not needed. If you don't need me in your space, give me what I want so that I can self-govern myself, which I think it's a good way and a diplomatic way of allowing people to go their way.
Mm-hmm. That would be cool. Coupled with that, I would like you to approach it from a different angle altogether. What probably could have informed this agitation for, of course, separation, for a referendum to go separate ways between, of course, Nigeria and the people of Biafra? Let's approach it from that angle as you and ask ourselves, what probably can we do to see into it that we find a healing in this divide?
Yeah, I think it's paramount to understand that for starters, there was no redemption, and the word you just used, healing, from the first Biafran crisis in 1967, to the 3 years fighting. And if you remember very well, there was a brief period where they got their independence, and then the Nigerian military decided to send all the planes to just bomb indiscriminately anybody who was found in that region. And those scars are passed on in what is called transgenerational trauma. You don't even have to tell your child about this. It's the same thing that affects most African countries. You don't really need to tell your child, hate this person or hate this person, but the way you behave and the way you talk about these things and the tone with which you use, your children pick that, and then they grow up with that. They send it to their children and their children's children, and each generation comes forth understanding their history and knowing very well that we are the people who have been marginalized in a country where we are one of the most, we are creating profit. We're bringing GDP, one of the highest rates of GDP. We're bringing the largest group of intelligent people. We're bringing the largest group of talented people. And yet we are the people who are not benefiting from all this. And this crisis goes on in most of the countries that we are finding, in the African continent with protests currently like Amazonia and Ethiopia. If you bring in another angle of how the Nigerian government has been dealing with this agitation, I believe, or I think, if they were to avoid the situation that they're finding themselves in, they really should have addressed the issue of why there was a Biafran war. There was a Biafran war, rather, in the first place. As it is, they are taking the Paul Biya approach of assuming everything is fine because we're in Lagos, while everything is not fine. People continue to die. You continue to apply the colonial methodology of handling protests, and that is arresting people arbitrarily, disappearing people arbitrarily. For a very long time, we don't know where Nnamdi Kanu is. That should not happen in this day and age. For a very long time, I don't know how many Biafrans have disappeared, how many have run from their homes, fearing persecution or fearing death. And that is a very old, very archaic way of dealing with these protests. Most of these African governments could have benefited and could have avoided this crisis if they came forth and asked the people, what is it we can do for you? Where did we go wrong? How can we institute healing to begin in the Biafran region to start with? How can we make sure that we set up, even if it's a ministry, or talk to the Ministry of Devolution, because Nigeria was one of the countries that started the federal system in Africa, and yet you have people with no roads. It makes zero sense, and that is a very bad conviction on devolution in Africa. So as it is, I think the onus is on the Nigerian government, first of all, to understand why there was a Biafran war in the first place, understand why it still goes on.
All right, we must continue. There was an issue of network, but I believe we are back. Please let me know if you can hear my voice from your end. If you can hear my voice from your end, please let me know so that we can continue. Very, very important.
24, the battle begin. And we are not going to stop. If it is going to take us 20 years to fight Nigeria differently than what we did in 67 and 70, we are ready for it. If it takes also 23 years for Taliban to defeat America and they left their land, we are ready to fight even 40 years.
Now, a lot of people do not understand that. It took 23 good years for Taliban to defeat America in their own land, and America left them. We are not talking about what happened in the past. This is not history. Of course, it's part of their history. But when you say history, it looks like something that happened in the olden days. We are talking about something that happened recently under the regime of Joe Biden, as it stands today. We are talking about something that happened just recently. which all of us are aware. That battle did not start today. That battle has been there for many years, for very many years. They've been fighting between Taliban and America. And finally, do you know how Taliban won the battle? I am not praising them because they were, categorized as a terrorist group. So I'm not praising them. I am not praising them at all. So, but I'm saying that the moment they won the battle, do you know how they won the battle? They entered the bush. They entered the bush. And they fought relentlessly with all the fighter jets, all the Super Tucano, all the, armor tanks and everything that America have. It never moved the Taliban. They fought relentlessly until they toppled that government. Like as I said, I am not praising them at all. Because I do not really have the clear picture of their battle for many years of war. But I only noticed that they took over the government. America ran away. The president ran away. They took over the military. They took over the government. That one happened just recently. But now let us bring it to Sudan. I think the Prime Minister said something about Sudan. So let's continue.
Since 1967 to 2024, Nigeria continued to fight us. The only thing is that we have not fought Nigeria until now. And in this fight, we are still defending ourselves. So 2nd of December will mark the beginning of the Biafra liberation. Do not expect something or any magic to happen. Beat America and they left their Nigeria differently than what we did in 67 and 70. We are ready for it. If it takes also 23 years afternoon, is for you to understand that after the declaration in December 2nd, 2024, the battle began. And we are not going to stop. If it is going to take us 20 years to fight Nigeria differently than what we did in 67 and 70, we are ready for it. If it takes also 23 years for Taliban to defeat America and they left their land, we are ready to fight even 40 years. Since 1967 to 2024, Nigeria continued to fight us. The only thing is that we have not fought Nigeria until now. And in this fight, we are still defending ourselves. So 2nd of December will mark the beginning of the Biafra liberation.
Did you get that? 2nd of December will mark the beginning of Biafra liberation. Are you paying attention? That is the reason why the Prime Minister has been reading, history of other countries, and of recent, the history of Finland, where he holds their citizenship. After the declaration, that will mark the beginning of our battle for freedom. Don't think it's going to be treated like, with kids' gloves. No. Because the zoo called Nigeria will not chicken out. South Sudan fought for 21 good years. Is it 21 or 27 years? I think 21 years. The most important thing there is your resilience and your resistance. That is the most important thing. Once Biafra is declared on December 2nd, the main war begins. And remember that we determine how this war will be fought. And they know. The zoo is aware. Somebody said 30 years. 30 years? 30 years, I'm not sure. I think it's 20-something. But the Prime Minister is telling you that even if it takes us 40 years, we will fight it. One thing is for sure. Freedom must surely be guaranteed.
This idiot.
That is one thing. The whole of you see all this brouhaha. All this brouhaha. The end point is freedom. The end point is freedom.
I don't know if let me just
one thing that gives me joy is that the end point is freedom. We are going to fight the zoo.
Do you remember when
stand
I exposed this
still.
criminal and
Stand